Hey everybody, it's the Anime Trainer, and today we're doing that morality thing again with Everyday Morality, and where we take a look at people's moral beliefs and try to figure out what their base moral principle is. And today we've got Nerd in the Bay, uh, Marco Flores. If you could introduce yourself for us and just kind
Hey,
of
how's it
tell us a
going,
little
guys?
bit about yourself.
For sure. My channel is Nerd in the Bay. Uh, I into a lot of different like pop culture nerdy stuff, ranging from video games to martial arts, training, because that's how me and Steven are like related in this thing. Movies, comics, anime, the whole spectrum of pop culture. So yeah, I run a channel about that. I just do a variety of videos.
To start out, um, do you think that there's a such thing as right and wrong?
Um, I do. Just from just growing up, like I'm being raised as like Catholic, but not like for me personally, not fully practicing. And I think that kind of goes with my family as well. We were sort of Catholic, but not all the way practicing ourselves. It was something that we did um, on the holidays, your Christmases, your Easters, that sort of thing. We weren't like going every Sunday sort of thing.
Sure,
So
sure, sure.
we had a sense of what right and wrong is. But in terms of like the whole Catholic sense, um, it was more so like guidelines of what not to do. And when you see it at that perspective, that point of view, it's kind of like really daunting in that sense. Like, don't do this, don't do that,
Just a
that
huge
sort of
collection
thing.
of
And it was like a
rules.
long list. Yeah, a huge collection of rules. And if you broke any of those rules, then there was this big like you had to do this whole like step by step process of repenting and I mean like repenting is one thing if like you feel sorry for it, but to go through this step by step, like man. And I saw it every Christmas because like my grandpa like died like in '91. And what something that we do as a family, um, they celebrate the death anniversary in the sense of like just like Catholic prayer, and like I would listen to it like every year, and they say the repeated things, and like I'm thinking like how many times they have to say this like to know that we all loved our grandpa and he's gone and stuff, but
Hmm.
to say that like he's either he's still here, or like to I guess reiterate that he's like we still love him, or that we sent him up to heaven, that sort of thing. Like it was a lot of step by steps when it comes to
Sure,
like the Catholic practice.
sure.
Yeah,
Very ritualistic.
very very much yes.
I know you said the you went every Easter and Christmas, and that reminded me of a joke where a guy says, every time I go to church, they only talk about Easter and Christmas. I don't think I'm gonna go back anymore.
Yeah, that's the big turnouts is those two
Oh yeah,
events
that's when
really.
you show up. It's like,
Yeah.
of course. Anyway, um, okay, so but that really doesn't go so much into why you think there's a right and a wrong.
Mm,
That's
okay.
just what you how you grew up and how you were taught, and like there's this list of rules, and nobody's got more rules than the Catholics.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean that was like the
My
foundation of it.
so, my brother, his grandparents are Catholic, and he when I said that he was like he's sitting over there thinking right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So like yeah. So it's like yeah, that was the foundation of me growing up, and um, it stayed with me for a good while, even though we were still not practicing like fully. So that was my basis of what the right and wrong is.
Okay,
And then like later on in that process, just watching, just stuff on media and social media and all that sense, you get to see the the world's view, the cultural view of what right and wrong is, and it's kind of polarizing with what like the religious side of that is of right and wrong is versus
Sure.
like, the world's right and wrong is, and then finally, I mean like it's like around 20 like 13 20 actually sorry 2012 2013 was when I got saved and and that's what I've been going by since in terms of right and
Okay.
wrong, and it's more and it's less so much about the rules. It's just like you're saved, so
Sure.
like it's up to you, like into your depth of your soul of do you really believe that you're saved and and if you're keep doing like either the wrong things, a part of you is like trying to keep control of that, or like do you just say like yeah I'm saved but you're still doing like the sinning and
Sure.
the like the vices and all that stuff because like
Gotcha.
you want to keep that as part of your control. But
Okay.
yeah,
So I guess I've got a couple of questions.
sure.
First off, just for my own clarification, um, what like denomination affiliation uh, when you were born again? What affiliation was that?
So like, I'm born again Christian.
Yeah, but like what denomination?
Denomination. That's actually a good question. I don't
That's
actually
okay.
actually
That's okay if you
fully
don't have
know
if
that.
it's a non-denominational thing. That's fine.
Yeah, I want to say I want to say it's non-denominational.
Okay.
I want to say it's non. Yeah. But again, I don't fully know that answer. I just know that like when I started going to church again, it was like being born again Christian, and then yeah, just everything changed then. You know,
No, I mean I get
so,
that. I get that.
yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so you obviously have this sort of internal locus of uh, what is right and wrong, sort of, you
Mhm.
know, feelings related to. But where do you think you draw those concepts of right and wrong from? Like, what's do you know what that principle is? Where's the source of your morality?
Um, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think it's just growing up in this world and seeing or around you, like people doing just seeing how the human being is of like
Mm-hmm.
either like they're actually legit like doing things right and being selfless in that sense
Okay.
versus somebody that's trying to be manipulative and trying to either get their own way. So it's very much just growing up and just observing everybody and seeing what true
Okay.
right, what true wrong looks like
Sure. So
from a person
got
to person basis.
you've got some experiences that you can kind of uh, draw lines
Sure.
around
Yeah.
right and wrong and sort of understand. But what makes something right and wrong? Like why is it wrong to manipulate people? Why is it good? Why is it a right thing to treat people with charity? Why are those things good or bad?
Because I feel like in the deepest sense, whether people agree with it or not, I feel like we're all selfish in a sense.
Okay,
When
so
it's like
people are inherently selfish.
inherently selfish, yeah.
Okay.
When it's like wanting things of their own or trying to use their own like God-given abilities or traits to do their own way. It's just very much the intention of that. It depends whether it's right and wrong for me. Um, whether it's just like sacrificing all of your time to feeding the homeless
Uh-huh.
versus either doing that same thing but yet like publicizing like, yay, so and so did this, like
Sure.
is giving to charity, and like his 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 promotion or him as a social media influencer is 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 trying to push that into the forefront rather than like you don't have to
Sure.
promote anything and just do like feed the homeless
Yeah.
and not really
So
ask for that.
so talking about intent, um, you just made a claim that um, the intent of an action affects its rightness or wrongness, correct? Or because obviously, like giving to someone in need is a good thing, period, right? You would say that,
Yeah,
but your intent beyond that is also affecting.
yeah. If you're trying to like either push your agenda, your social media, your like your status in life.
Okay.
If it's pushing more so that, then that's where it becomes. That's where you can see. I feel like that's where you can see like some more of the selfishness of it,
Okay.
even if it's a good action.
So why is it good to help, and why is it bad to be selfish?
I mean, it's good to help. I mean, this is very much like a. I have to dig deeper, and I don't have that straightforward answer. Is
And that's the
when I
point of
think,
this. That's what we're doing.
yeah, yeah. When I think about it, it's just I think about the people that helped me to where I am now, where these people sacrifice their time and energy um, just to I'm trying to think, just to um, I'm trying to find the words. That's
No,
what I'm
no, take your
pausing.
time.
Uh, when I think about the people that put time into me, they were the people that, yeah, like I said, sacrificed their time. They sacrificed time with their spouses, their family. They they went out of their way to meet me for lunches and
Sure,
meetings with
sure.
me, just to just to live life with me basically. And if there was any sort of need that I had, whether it's like praying for me or like I say I'm short on money for groceries, they would like if that was a need, then they would like sacrifice their own resources to be able just to help me out, just for that
Sure.
week, that sort of thing. So like people that fed into me in that sense, not so much of like, oh, give me money and that sort of thing. That's not that. It was more so just living life with me basically. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So you're explaining to me um, good things that people did
Mhm.
and talking about bad things that people did, as an example of what not to do,
Sure.
but we're not really digging into why those things are good or bad.
Okay.
Um, so someone takes time out of their day to come have lunch with you to talk about a particular issue
Mhm.
because you need it. Okay?
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
helpful to you.
strong. Yeah.
Sure. Why is that a good thing for them to do? Why is that morally good?
I feel like morally good in a sense that they don't have to do that themselves. They don't have to
What do you
uh,
mean?
like they don't have to use their time to
Uh-huh.
to talk about say let's say I have that issue and we're meeting and talking about it. They don't have to take their time to talk to have that discussion with me when they
Mm-hmm.
can just do they're
Sure,
usually
sure.
doing routine.
They absolutely
Um,
can. But why is it good that they do that?
I
Why is
feel
that a
like
good
it's
thing?
I feel like they're looking out for a fellow person in that
Okay.
sense. Maybe they're struggling with the same thing back then. They were struggling with the same thing, and they see the same repeated processes and things like that.
Okay. So they want
So I feel like
to
that's a good thing. They would like to like. try to save that person from like digging their own hole in that sense.
Sure.
You know?
Um, why is that good? Because you can say it's good, but like at there's a deeper layer to that. Um, because you can just say it was like, oh yes, you ought to do that, or yes, you should do that.
Mm.
Well, why? What's the reason that I? Because they're not. It's not just good in and of itself, right?
I
There has
mean,
to be a reason that it's good.
I can go the whole religious route if that's the
No,
case.
you
Like,
look. That's the point. You tell me
yeah.
whatever the thing is, and we'll dig
So
deeper. And we'll get to the very
yeah.
root of it, whatever it is.
So
There's
so
not a right or a wrong answer here.
so from the religious route of that is like being a born again Christian and in all that sense is the people that fed into me is because they've understood that in this sense and in what I believe in is that Jesus did that to them for them.
Okay.
Uh, so so when they realize that, because a lot of people like can say like, oh yeah, I'm saved again, but yet they still do whatever they do and like either sin like bad
Sure.
and say like, oh I'm good, God's got me and all that stuff, and yet continue to keep sinning in that
Sure.
sense. Um, so like when people or the person that's reaching out for me like knows that themselves and then see me struggling with that, then they can see that like, okay, well, let's reach out to them, let's pursue them, let's leave the 99 to pursue the one.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay. All right. So we're looking at Jesus as sort of a standard.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. Why are the things that Jesus did good?
Because he was Jesus was, I feel like, was selfless, the
Okay.
selfless one that you know he went to the cross and he didn't
Sure. Sure.
deserve to
Sure.
or needed to, and that could be like that could be the argument for the quote unquote Christians that try to debate with non-believers or atheists in that sense. Um, but like when you read into it and it affects you on that personal level, like that affected me early, like as I was growing up too. Like I was
Hmm.
always surrounded by people who was following God, who like it was, and it was like on Catholic sense and also born Christian sense as well. It's like I was always aware who Jesus is,
Sure.
always around that. And in that sense, when I think about my walk with God, then then it feels like God was with me the entire time. It just
Sure.
took 30 plus years to get me where I'm at. Uh, but like God's timing in that sense. But
Sure. Sure. So we look at Jesus, and you said that, and I asked you, well, what about what Jesus did? What made those things good? And you said he
mm,
was selfless. Um,
yeah,
what about selflessness is good? Why is that good?
selflessness is good because it's not thinking about the self; it's thinking about
Sure.
others.
Well, that's sort of a circular thing, because it's like you're defining the word in and of itself. You're saying selflessness is good because it's selflessness. Well, it's like,
Mm.
well, yeah, but why is selflessness good? You can't just go back to the original word and point to that. There has to be something underneath it that would make it selflessness a good thing.
Then that's the part where I am not at right now.
You're not okay, so you're not sure.
No, not at this point. No.
Okay, That's cool. Well, let's take a
Not to
step.
that, not to that,
Sorry.
not to that extent.
Oh no, that's okay. So, um, let's take a step back from that, and then we'll kind of like re-engage it at another time when we've talked about some other stuff, and maybe we'll have a different view on it
Okay.
when we go through that other stuff. So, do you think that there is an objective standard of right and wrong?
No.
No, you don't think there's an objective standard of right and wrong?
Mm-mm. No, it's all subjective.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So, why is
My
it subjective?
my understanding of what right and wrong is could be subjective to somebody else.
Okay, well let's take the easy route. Well, let's talk about murder.
Sure.
um, is murder wrong?
Yes.
Why?
Uh, Again, going back to religious route, it was in the commandments.
Okay.
Um, it's a it's a crime, you know, in the government sense, in terms of law. Um,
So we've got rules that say don't kill people,
mhm.
but why? Why why is it wrong? Why would a person say that it's wrong? Would they look at the government and say, "You know what? That's wrong because there's a law."
Mm.
Well, morality and legality obviously are not equal because there's plenty of things that we could look at in the law and say, well, that's not right. At one point, I think most people would agree that slavery was bad,
Of
but at
course, yeah,
one point it was legal. So there was
yeah,
we would say that's an unjust law.
yeah.
We can't say that morality and legality are the same thing. Um, you may be able to make an appeal to something with the whole religious aspect of it because saying that God said God said that killing someone is wrong. Um, is that what makes killing wrong? Is it only wrong because God said so, or does God say so because it's wrong? Like I said, no wrong answer.
I think if God didn't mention that killing was wrong, then it wouldn't have been wrong.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So
You know?
the so it has to. So would you say that all morality has to be? That's too much. So God saying something is right or wrong is what determines whether or not it's right or wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It's a double-sided blade in the sense of the religious end, where yes, it's plain clear cut, right and wrong. You know, do these things, don't do these things, versus
Mm-hmm.
what society has deemed almost acceptable in the sense of like some of the things that religious and deemed not acceptable. Um,
Okay.
and and that's what, in my belief, that's where Jesus came into play.
Sure.
Is that all the right and wrongness of everything, and taking it to the cross for everybody in this selfless act. Um, it almost freed it pretty much it freed everybody. It freed everybody from that that chain of like being bound by like the thing that either you may have done in the past or
Mm-hmm.
something that you're doing in the future. Like that's where that's where Jesus, in this sense, and like how I feel about it is, you're freed from it. You're free to not do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you, the person, have to decide: do you really believe that you're saved? That you don't have to do this quote unquote vice anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Like you do, then you don't really believe that you feel like you're free. You're free in that sense.
Gotcha. So, but what does that have anything to do with whether or not something is right or wrong?
goes. I feel like it goes back. Yeah, it goes back to God deeming what is right and wrong,
Okay.
and then
So
you take the next step.
let's talk about
Okay,
that for a second.
sure.
Um, God says murder is wrong.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and we asked for distinction. Is murder wrong because God says so, or is God merely pointing out that murder is wrong because of some other reason? Um, and you went with the route of it's wrong because God says so.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, let's define murder.
sure.
Uh, is it what is murder? Is it's unjust killing?
Mm. Taking
Is
someone's
is
life.
is all killing murder?
Yeah, then that's where you get the grayness of it. Um, you have your self defense murders.
Yep.
Um, someone invading your home, uh, trying to whether rob or really hurt the people that you love.
Yeah.
Um,
So is that wrong?
so you're in a sense no, because also God deemed that as well.
Okay. But
Because
why?
um, because you're not the intent of it. I guess it's your. I guess your intent to protect your loved ones. The intent of protecting property can come and go. Like it's I feel like it's in terms of protecting your loved ones that it's God deemed it as that's okay. But if it's on the intent of being malicious or like the intent of jealousy, what any of these like anger, that those sort of emotions towards another person, then God deemed that wrong.
Okay. Um, so is it arbitrary when God says this killing is okay, this killing is not, this killing is okay, this killing is not, or is there some underlying principle between all of those actions that determines its rightness or wrongness? Or is it just totally dependent on God's arbitrary command? See the wheels turning.
I think it's
Now, don't. I want to caution you to not say what you think you're supposed to maybe say,
no
and say what you actually think.
no like when it comes to the basis of it, what God deems right and wrong is what steers me to believe what right and wrong is. And I struggle with this because I live in the world where I go to work, I, you know, meet with like particular people who are maybe against what God deems right and wrong.
Uh
But
huh.
because what Jesus did for me, I still love on them because what I did in my own life in the past is no better than what they're doing now.
Okay.
So I just try to love on them,
Mm-hmm.
even though like I'm not great. I'm not great as a person back then as I won't be, in the future. But Jesus for like
Gotcha.
paid it on the cross for me.
Okay. So we're reaffirming. Um, that whatever God says goes
Mm.
just because God says it, right?
Yeah.
Period. So
Yeah.
if if God rolled up on humanity tomorrow, like out loud, and was
Mm.
like, "Hey, everybody, um, you know, Netflix is the devil. It's it's like you can't use Netflix anymore. Hulu's good, not
Yeah.
Netflix. That mean the that Netflix would be wrong just
Mm.
because God said so, and not because of any other reason that it might be wrong. Like if there was, if now that doesn't necessarily mean that when God gives a command that He necessarily always gives you the reason that He's given you that command.
No.
Sometimes you do get that command. I
Mm.
mean, the reason with the command, don't eat of the tree or you're gonna
Mm.
die.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, gotcha. Um, but sometimes it's just don't do that thing.
Mm.
Does that mean that just because he didn't give you the reason for that command, that there's not a reason?
There's a reason. I feel like there's a reason that we don't have to know about.
Sure. As far as and that makes sense as far as like um, doing the thing. But when
Mm.
we try to apply a principle across things that are new that maybe don't have biblical reference, um, we have to look at the rules that we have,
Mm.
and then try to figure out how that applies to now. And the only way we can do that is if we can establish what those principles are that made that thing right or wrong when God doesn't plainly spell it out in
Right.
Scripture. Um, so, do you think that that's the case, or do you think that if we don't have an explicit command regarding something, it isn't covered? It doesn't matter.
Um, I feel like someone is going to reference something in like a very minor detail or a very partial detail that says that, oh, God covered that.
What do you mean?
But I'm thinking of it like, if it like you mentioned,
Yeah,
if
an
it's some,
example works. That we
yeah,
if you
yeah,
have an example.
I'm thinking of the example that you just said. If it's something that like it has not been covered by scripture, I feel like I feel like someone out there will try to connect it and then try to like shout it out. It's like, hey, no, it's connected. But it's like then it becomes your personal belief. Then you kind of grab that situation, that scenario into your own belief system. Like, well, do I think it's right or wrong?
Yeah,
Or do I believe this person who's maybe reaching or like to say like, oh, it's connected, the scripture
yeah.
said. So
So
then
we've
it becomes like you become the judge of that to deem if it's right or
sure,
wrong.
but when you're obvious, you would probably be appealing to some sort of principle in order to determine whether or not it was right or wrong. Unless there's just like, ew, that's gross. Um,
If that's the case, but like I think I would just leave it up to God. Like, God, just
okay,
what do you think
let's
it is?
let's posit a
Live it
situation
up to him.
let's posit a couple of situations that do not yet exist. Okay,
Okay.
um, sentient sapient androids. So robot people that feel, think, whatever else. They're not human. We created them. Do we have a moral obligation to treat them in the same fashion that we treat other human beings?
Yes, I feel like
Why?
me personally.
They're not humans.
But
We don't have a
but
command
we're
that says don't kill robots.
but we were created in God's image, right? Uh,
Sure, but they were created in our image.
yeah,
It's just like, I'm sure somebody out there is going to be like, I can destroy my computer if I want to.
yeah, yeah. I'm not that type of. For me personally, I wouldn't be that type of person to like, oh man, I got this thing. I do whatever I want with it. And be perverted about it. No, that's not me. I
So why
wouldn't
would
get
it why would it be a bad thing to harm a another living sentient sapient being that is not a human, like be it an android or an alien
to
or
an animal.
I mean, some people even draw the line, like don't even like
Mm,
include the animals, just so we'll just cut that out for the sake of making this a little bit more
sure.
easy, a little easier. We have a relative a an android, an artificial human that is basically comparable uh, in intelligence, function, all these other things to humans, except we made it. Do we have to treat it with the same rules that we treat other human beings?
Should, but I feel like we won't.
Okay, yes, but you feel like we won't. Okay, I'm not concerned with the you feel like we won't right now. I'm concerned with the
Yeah.
yes, you think we ought to. Why do you think we ought to?
Mm. I think because it was created like we were created. You know.
Okay, how is it any
Yes,
different than
we
just a
created
normal
the.
how is it any different than a
So I think
really,
yes, we
really
created
fast
this being.
computer?
Really what?
How is that being any different than a really, really fast computer? I made it. Like, what's the
Mm.
difference? What's the qualitative difference that would make it wrong?
Being able to make its own decisions and
Okay.
to do what is best, whether they're performing in a directive where it's best for the person or a directive that is best for them.
Okay. So there's something ev- that's not covered.
Mm.
There's never been a commandment that says, you know, don't kill robots. That
Right.
anything. I mean, you might be able to make a claim that uh, love your neighbor now covers that
Mm.
being, uh, but you'd have to make that claim based on you know, some things that are not included in Scripture. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So, what is the
Yeah, that makes
underlying
sense.
principle that would keep us, that would have us acting in a moral fashion toward an artificial life form? Um, and you said that it has its own wants, desires, and functions that it's trying to perform that are in and of itself. Um, so talk about that a little bit more. Why is that important? Why is it important that that makes the difference?
If we created this thing, this being, to be like a person, then don't we have to treat it like a person? Like
Do we?
isn't that isn't that the case? Like,
Do we? Yeah, that's a question. Like, do we have to treat it like a person?
or are we creating this being just so we can treat it like trash? Because we can. Uh, and it makes me think of slavery when they were. It makes me think of slavery because like
Yeah, but it's not a person.
Yeah,
or is it?
but we're treating it like a person, and we're
But
treating it.
we could not treat it like a person.
We can,
The
we can.
question is, would it be wrong to not treat it like a person?
Then that I think that would be more. That'd be subjective.
Okay. If it's subjective and all moral weight comes from the command of God, is there really any moral weight to any of our subjective? Because if I say, "Oh, I don't think that that's right," and God hasn't said anything about it, and all of our sense of right and wrong comes from God's commands, is it really right or wrong? Can I even make that claim? And if so, why? Why can I make that claim?
That's something I would have to just meditate on.
Well, that's what we're doing now. We're asking questions and we're going to try to dig a little deeper and see if we can get into that.
Yeah.
Because there are groups of people who hold to divine command theory
Mm.
of morality, which essentially just means that um, whatever God commands is good, or if he says it's bad, it's bad, and for no other reason than because God says.
Mm.
He is the old he because God created everything, everything is his, and whatever he says goes. Divine command theory.
Right.
Um, there are plenty of people who say that. Um, but do you you said that you sort of believe that, but do you really believe that? Because when I ask you um, if it's wrong to harm a another sentient being who's not a human being, like you seem to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but why do you have a problem with that? It should just be up to, it's not a human being. It doesn't have a soul. It's not in made in God's image. Why should that matter? It's just a stupid robot. To our future robot overlords, that was sarcasm.
It's a- um. Yeah. It just goes back to being like we were created in God's image, and if and to love our neighbor, it just goes back to that.
Okay,
Even
so
even if it's even if it's just like it was created in human image, then I I connect it to where love your neighbor. You know.
gotcha. So if because it functions as a human and it's similar enough to being a human being, you feel like uh, that the laws concerning treating human beings ought to extend out to those beings also.
If they're made so close to being as human being as possible, yeah.
Where's the line for that? Ooh, I can't
Like
hear
my,
you.
I'm just thinking like I'm just uh, speaking out loud. Like I don't know right now. Like my brain is all like racked up and stuff, just trying to dig. Uh,
Sure, and obviously that line question is a deeper question about like identity and
mm,
what it means to be a human being and epistemology. Can we even know what it means to be human, and can we even know what it means to like philosophy of mind? Can we even know what it means to be what it's like to be a robot? Is it actually a robot, or is it or the lights on but nobody's home? Is there actually something?
right.
Is the robot actually experiencing something, or is it just acting like it experiences things? Um,
Mm,
those are completely different questions. But we we just assume, for the sake of the argument, that it does, and that it functions very much the same way as a human being does, just for the sake of the argument. But there's a
Right.
there's a lot of layers to the philosophy of artificial intelligence. So that's a big topic. It's going to be very
Yeah.
very important in the next 10 to 20 years. So
Yeah. Pretty much before Armageddon or Judgment Day, whatever one comes up first, or if there ever comes up.
so all right. Um, all right. So you made an extension of love your neighbor from to those artificial humans or artificial beings,
Right.
um, because of being basically made in humans' image, similar enough to humanity that it's um, you know it functioned in very much the same way. So you think that that ought to be covered. Um, okay, so interesting. I'm trying to get a question here. Um, all right, so let's think about a different topic because
Okay.
I think we're probably gonna, if we start to thinking about that one too much, we're gonna be going in a different direction. Um, all right, so let's talk about uh, gene therapy.
Okay.
That's a thing that did not exist, obviously, back in the day. They didn't even know that genes were a thing. So let's say that I want to be able to inject myself with the genes of a tiger to get tiger
Uh,
attributes because I think that that's cool. Um,
mm.
there's obviously not a command about that. Is that up in the air?
I'm like, what? Like,
Is that
that's
is that
that's up in the
since
air. I feel like
since so that's not that's a very subjective thing. It's you wouldn't say that that's right or wrong.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's subjective. That's up in the air for me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. And I really just asked the question it's to narrow things down. Because
Mm.
we chop that off, we are able to kind of point
Mm.
us in another direction. Um,
Okay.
okay. Let's see. Okay, there is never a clear command in Scripture to not own slaves. There's never in not Old Testament, not New Testament. Slaves were just a natural part of that world that that it was just the thing.
It happened. Yeah.
Now, they said treat your slaves well. If
Mm.
you're a slave, be a good slave. Whatever your position in life is, be a good version of that. But it never
Mm.
says don't own
Don't own
slaves.
slaves.
But
Right.
you
Yeah.
would think we that slavery is wrong, right?
Right. Yeah. Of course.
It's okay.
Definitely.
So slavery is wrong, but there's never been a command about not owning slaves. Why is slavery wrong if there's never been a command about it?
Are you asking me? You asking me now?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Why? What's the question? Ask the question again. Why is slavery?
There's never been a command about slavery being wrong.
Mm.
You think it's wrong. Why is it wrong?
Wrong. This because yeah, this feels like a subjective answer. Uh, it's wrong because you're owning another human being and you're treating it less so.
Okay, all right. So
So for the
what if I own a slave.
Mhm.
I treat them very, very well, but they have to listen to everything that I do. Everything that I tell them. I'm in complete control of their lives. But I'm a very, very good slave owner. Um, is slavery still wrong? My slaves, enjoy their lives. They work hard, but I work hard. It's all of a. It's a very, I'm, I. It's a world that may or may not have ever existed.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there was ever a slave owner that was like that, but that's not the point. This is an
Yeah,
imaginary world. Um, is slavery still wrong? Even though, in for all intents and purposes, everybody seems to be pretty happy.
yeah. And back then in the scripture, it seemed to be more so that way than it is like as our history is now,
Sure, sure.
which is all cruel and
Well, let's just imagine a world now where we drop into a world that's exactly like ours, except it's legal to own people, and you know, I'm a good slave owner in the sense of everybody seems to be happy. I care about the needs of my slaves. I make sure that they have food and water and shelter, and I make sure that they are taken care of and they have things that they want. And but I require them to work and I own them. Is
I
that
can't
wrong?
I can't disconnect from that. I feel like it's still wrong.
What? Okay, so your gut instinct is it's wrong. Okay,
Yeah,
why?
owning a human being and regardless of the 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 situation, the scenario, whether you want to be an abiding slave, or you're an amazing owner, like the very idea of owning slaves, whether in a perfect sense or the sense that we are all so used to like hearing and reading and watching, it's it's wrong.
Okay, why?
And why? Yeah, the why is it just comes back to me just the idea of owning somebody.
Okay, what's wrong with owning somebody? What if they sold themselves to me?
Willingly,
Yeah.
that then that would be their own decisions, right? That'd be their own choice to do
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So let's say that somebody
I don't have to
says,
agree with it. It's just that's their decision.
okay, so there's something that has to do with personal freedom.
Yeah,
Okay. So the ability to make your own choices is important.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you
Uh,
choose to let go of those, that's clearly like your own decision.
so if you um, give up your freedom for uh, basically security,
Right.
making sure that you have all basic necessities or whatever else, then is that's not wrong because that's your choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we've established that there's a um, that the wrongness of slavery has to do with the fact that it is involuntary.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about voluntary? What about something being voluntary is good?
It's the good out of it
Yeah, why is that good? Why is
is
it
what you're
good that
asking.
it is voluntary? Yeah. Why does that make an otherwise abhorrent state of like something that we would look at and say that's terrible? Why does it being voluntary all of a sudden make it okay?
Okay. It goes back to being that it's your decision to make that choice
Okay.
to to make that choice of having security and of having a roof over your head, having food on your plate, being quote unquote taken care of, but like you just have to work for
Yeah.
this person. Um, I guess that makes it more okay than like the other end of that where it's involuntary, and you know you're taken away from your land, you're taken away from your family, and you're doing like a type of work that like you just don't want to do, but yet
Now let's say that there's a situation where I do I sell myself
mm,
into slavery for that purpose. I'm there for
right,
like 10 years. I'm living the life. I'm doing
mm-hmm,
everything. Everything's pretty good. But I eventually decide, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But I
mm,
no longer have that ability because I have sold my
you
freedom.
sold it, yeah.
Um, is slavery still okay?
Mm.
Or do I have to stand by my previous action of selling my freedom? Was I short sighted? Now I have to live with the consequences of my actions.
Yeah, I think that's more short sightedness.
Okay. Um, but does the slave owner, is he now taking advantage of me because the reason I got with him was for security? And that's essentially him maybe taking advantage of somebody who is um, maybe can't take care of themselves on their own, but now I've been 10 years and now I want to be able to take care of myself, but I can't because I sold
Mm,
my freedom. Um,
right.
is uh, owning the slave, owning a person, um, uh, okay because of that, or is it wrong because now I've um, taken advantage of somebody in their being destitute or in need, and now that they no longer need that, they want to go somewhere else, but I won't let them because I now own them. What That's a little bit of a different situation, but
Yeah.
would slavery be wrong in that sense? Should I let that person go?
Uh, I mean, if you're quote unquote a good slave owner in that sense,
Sure, sure.
uh, yeah, I feel like there would have been have to been like a contractual agreement.
Okay, yeah, sure, a contract. So let's say that I
Yeah.
did sign a contract and it's my whole life, but now I want
Mm,
out of the contract.
mm. Then that's short sightedness.
Okay, so am I uh is so the contract, I'm obligated to keep the contract because I made a contract.
Yeah. Because it goes back to being that you made that decision.
Okay, so why am I obligated to keep the contract?
I'm going back and forth about it now because
Nope, that's okay.
you're obligated because you gave up that decision. At the same time, you may feel like you're free enough to uh, want out, like to feel those feelings of wanting to want out. but you made that decision, and if it's like a contract for life, then
Yeah, but what moral
life.
weight does the contract have? Why ought I to hold
It's
that contract up?
it's true. It's just a piece of paper. It's a binding promise.
Is there something that you would appeal to morally that says I ought to maintain that agreement? And if so, what is it? I said that I would do something. I no longer want to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not saying like I throw my hands up in the air and say like I don't know because it becomes more like it becomes more in a gray area. Mm.
Okay. So, as a obviously this is a little bit of a denigrating sort of comparison here, but you get married.
Mm.
You sign a contract saying that that you're going to be married from till death do you part, all that stuff. Um, but then you want out.
Mm.
Um, and nobody broke the bounds of the contract. Nobody cheated. Nobody did the things that are in the contract that would absolve you of the contract.
Right.
But you just want out.
You just want out.
Is that wrong?
I would ask questions at that point. Like, did you do enough? Are you tending to the
Um,
needs? Are
yeah.
you?
So that doesn't.
It
Okay.
makes
So
me
let's
ask
just.
questions basically.
Sure, sure, sure. Basically, the person just wants to not be married anymore, and they want to go be with somebody else, but they haven't done anything wrong. So that like they just don't want to. They just don't want to be with that person anymore. Are you
You're
obligated to
asking me.
keep? Yeah. Are
Oh,
you obligated
obligated.
morally to keep that contract?
Mm. I would say yeah. Uh,
Okay. Why are you obligated to keep that contract?
I mean, it was under God's eyes. You know, that wedding day. It's
Is it just because it's a religious ceremony, or is there something inherent in a contract that says you should keep it?
I mean, it goes back to like if you got married and if you got married and now you want out just because you want out, that feels selfish.
Okay. Gotcha. So is it the problem that you're breaking the contract, or is it the problem that you're being selfish?
I think the problem is that you're being selfish.
Interesting. Okay. So there's definitely a command to not get divorced.
Mm.
Um, so would that right? And but you seem to think that the wrongness of uh, getting divorced in that fashion doesn't necessarily come from the you've been told that you're not supposed to, but that it's because it's selfish.
Goes back to me asking the questions like, did you do enough?
Yeah,
Tentative, all that.
but
It goes
this
back
is a
to
this is an instant. So if we parallel the two situations that we've had where we've had to ask whether or not it's command or reason, we had murder. It's wrong because God commands it. Divorce. It's wrong because it's selfish. Not because God did command don't get a divorce. He did. Oppose apart from adultery, don't get a divorce.
right.
So this is the thing that will break this contract. Other than that, do not do this.
Yeah.
But so in the murder aspect of it was God said so. But in your view, for the marriage aspect of it, it's because it's selfish that makes it wrong. What do you think about that?
In the divorce situation, it's selfish because I have to ask those questions.
Sure, sure. But what we're looking at right now is we're looking at what is the difference between these two things to where in the one instance the rightness or wrongness is determined upon God's command, and in the other instance it's determined basically upon the situation or the intent of the action, even though that there is a direct command not to do it.
Right, right. And God gave a command of like, this is the only way you can get divorce. Anything less than that, it does is not okay with me. It's not cleared basically. And the scenario of like I just want out because I want out. No particular reason. No
Yeah,
me asking those questions. This is just I just want out. Like that's where it feels it's selfish because it's like
yeah.
what you just it's like
But
a
when
blockbuster video. You just put in you just rent it for
but when
five
I
days and then you return it.
but when I ask you why it's wrong, you didn't
Mhm.
say it's wrong because God said so. You said it's wrong because it's selfish.
Right.
So it seems like there might be more to rightness and wrongness, to you at least, than just whatever God says in a moment. And that's not to say that God. I'm not accusing saying that God gets it wrong. I'm
Mm,
saying like there's an underlying principle in each of those commands
mm.
that um, makes all of them make sense together as a whole. Because you can totally say it's just God's command, and there's plenty of people who believe that. But I don't think that you do, because
Well,
when pressed, you didn't go to that. You went to
yeah,
something else.
yeah. I went to something else, but beyond that, I know the command of God in terms of divorce is what He commanded. But
Sure.
I think it's wrong to divorce because you just want to. That's what I deem it's
Yeah.
selfish
Yeah. Exactly. So
because it's a personal thing for me because it's a personal experience.
sure. Sure. So let
You
me
know,
ask you
so
again: is it wrong because God commands it, or is God saying,
mm,
"Hey, don't do this. This is wrong," because of a reason that would make it wrong? Is it arbitrary, or is it based in something that would make it wrong and give reason for God to give that command? Like, were all of the Old Testament laws, were they completely arbitrary, or were they for a purpose? All of the New Testament laws, are they completely arbitrary, or are they for a purpose?
I believe they're for a purpose.
Okay. Okay. So we've stepped away from a little bit from divine command theory, because you are recognizing that there is a standard of morality, or there's a principle of morality that um, God is that is the reason that God is giving those commands. And that he now, mind you, I still you can still it's not taking anything away from God because he created the universe.
Sure.
And he created the universe in such a fashion that all of the rules and
Mm,
the way that the universe operates within each other, it's the way he made it.
mm,
So just because he's pointing out those principles doesn't make it any less, you know, God saying, "Hey, don't," it doesn't make it any less.
mm.
It doesn't make that principle greater than God.
Right, right.
Does that make sense? Because some people would say
Yeah,
that. Some
Yeah.
people would say, "Oh, well, you're appealing to something higher than God." No, the
Sure.
situation is the universe is this way,
Mm.
and so because it's this way, when God commands something, He commands it according to
Yeah.
the principles that make sense in the universe, because God's reasonable. He's not crazy. It's a reasonable being. It's a rational being.
Right.
Um, which, like I said, you can still think that it's just arbitrary command. Because plenty of people do, but I think we've established that you don't think that. Which you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I have no idea at this point. I have no idea.
So, underlying principle of reason why not to do something.
Mm.
So, you say, don't break the contract of marriage for no reason because that's selfish. Why is it selfish to do that? Maybe because it hurts someone.
There could be a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where we're trying to dig
Mm.
to find what that principle is.
Yeah. So,
So we have to look at all. And what's really cool though is that because of your current your beliefs as a Christian, you have all of these laws that you can look at and say, okay, I have all of these laws and commands. What is the common denominator between all of these commands that allows that I can draw from to be able to say, well, what is the base principle of all of those things? So that you have a set of beliefs that you already subscribe to. Does that make sense?
yeah.
As opposed
Um,
to somebody else who is like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out.
yeah. Yeah. Uh,
So let's take a couple of them. Let's
okay.
take murder, uh, stealing,
Mm-hmm.
lying. Three of the ten. Three of the Ten
Mm-hmm.
Commandments. What is the common denominator between those three things that would make them wrong?
Do not?
Okay, but not the command. The
Okay.
action. Why is the action wrong?
Why is the action wrong?
Why is it wrong to murder? Why is it wrong to steal? Why is it wrong to lie?
Mm. It makes me think of the intent, the selfishness of it.
Okay, so it's wrong because it's selfish. Um,
Yeah. Taking something
what?
away from something or someone.
Okay, so we have a consequence
Mm-hmm.
um, that harms someone else. Okay, um, and I'm over exaggerating the lie thing because the actual command is like do not bear false testimony or false witness, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
little white lie things and more about like over like bigger things.
Mm.
Um, uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so the consequences involved with those actions. So what happens when you murder?
I mean, if you're caught, you go to
No,
jail.
no, I mean what happened like what is the immediate consequence of killing somebody? They did.
They're dead. Yeah,
They
you took
did.
somebody, persons away from a family. I
Yep.
mean, I would feel like the person, whether they have a conscience or not, would bear a weight because of it. If they don't have
Okay.
that type of conscience,
So
then
obviously
and
they
I'll
when you
I'll do it again.
obviously when you've murdered, you've taken that person you've ended that person's life, which means that they no longer have a life ahead of them. You've also affected anybody connected to those people. when you
Yeah,
do that. Okay. To take like a further stretch, you might be able to say what's like, oh, you've harmed the fabric of society or something. um,
sure, sure. Yeah.
okay, so then let's look at stealing. Why is stealing wrong? What happens when you steal? What's the immediate consequence?
Um, you're taking an item away from a person, a place
Okay, that's not yours to take.
that's not yours to take. Yeah.
Um, so what happens when you do that?
Mm, again, it goes back to having that conscience, whether you have it or not. Feel a particular weight about it. Um, I mean, like as a kid, like I've stole before, but like candy, and, like
Sure.
like that.
Like when I was like 7, maybe no, maybe younger. I don't know. It was 6 or 7 or something like that. I took a toy from some kid.
Yeah, yeah. I stole like a toy from like Walgreens because it was a. I just wanted it, but I was like a little kid, so I didn't know any better. Um, so you feel this weight of doing wrong. I think when
Okay.
when you you're aware that like stealing is wrong.
So you might be aware that stealing is wrong, but wherein comes that where does that awareness come from?
It depends whether your parents taught you that like it was wrong, or you actually are aware of like what say like you are being brought up on scripture as well. Like you are read that it's wrong as well. Um,
Okay. So
it's usually one of those two
um
things.
so there's nothing about the effects of stealing that would make somebody think that it was wrong.
It makes me think of also like the grayness of it too, the honor of stealing sort of thing.
What do you mean?
Uh, like Robin Hood and honorable thieves type thing. Stealing from the
Gotcha.
rich, give to the poor, that
Sure,
sort of
sure,
thing.
sure.
Maybe for that.
I think to make it pretty clear. Let's set up a situation. Um, a guy has just cashed his paycheck, and you lift it out of his pocket, and now he doesn't have his paycheck for the week.
Mm,
Whole week
yeah,
gone,
yeah.
but now you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that wrong?
He took a resource out of a person that may have needed it for their family,
Oh, they
for
definitely
themselves.
needed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He definitely took
Okay.
away something that it was a resource.
Okay. So you have. Um, why is that bad? Why is it bad that I do that?
It goes back to just say like I'm the thief.
Uh huh.
Why did I do that? Like it's like I could do that because like I needed it myself. Yeah, I done that like because I like the thrill of quote unquote stealing. Uh,
You're really good at it, and it's easier than holding down a normal job.
yeah, but like depending if the quote unquote thief has that conscience of like, you know, am I aware that this person needs it? Maybe, maybe not. But I do it anyway, then that feels wrong. If I knew that that person really needed it, he was down on his luck, but he really
Yeah.
needed that, and I took it from him, then that definitely feels wrong.
Okay.
If I had
Why
that,
is that? Why is it wrong though?
because I feel like, because if you're aware that that person needed it, but you took it away from them, then it becomes like a selfish thing.
Okay.
I
So we're
can
back to we're
take it
back to
because I want to, because I
selfishness.
can.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Let's see here. All right. Let's take a look at bearing false witness.
yeah.
Um, I spread lies about my neighbor that basically ruins his reputation. He loses his job, and his wife leaves him.
So Old
Like,
Testament doxing.
yeah, super Old Testament doxing. Um, and so I do that. Is that wrong? I just said some words.
Yeah, yeah, it's wrong.
What's wrong with the words? They're just words.
If it actually affected the person in their
So
life,
the consequences matter.
yeah, they do. Like the livelihood, and you're just like this outsider that's just saying these words. Oh no, you're just a neighbor that's just saying these words, and everybody believes you. Like you outcasted this person because of like lies in that sense.
Okay. So what is the common denominator between murder, uh, stealing, and bearing false witness against your neighbor? What's the common denominator between those three things that would make them all wrong, other than the fact that God said don't do it?
Other than the fact that God said don't do it.
Because
Just
we've already established that that's a thing,
yeah,
and now we're trying to find out why. It's why those things were set up as being wrong.
it's the selfishness of it, the intention of it. Um, it's
What about selfishness is wrong?
that you feel like you can bully a person of it, whether it's stealing or false witness or murder, um, and like you enjoy it, like that there's that part feels wrong about it. Like that's
Sure. But you're just saying the same thing again.
yeah, yeah. I am saying the same thing again. Yeah, I think it's just yeah. I feel like it's just I'm just thinking about the selfishness of it, of
Okay.
taking
So
that
there's some
particular
you think that
thing
there's something
resource away from the other person.
you think that there's something inherently wrong with selfishness.
Yeah,
Okay.
not to say that I don't am not selfish myself. I am selfish in ways,
So does
but
that
like
mean that anything done for yourself is bad? So if you do things because you enjoy it, is that bad? Is that selfish? And I only ask that question because there's plenty of people that I know who have grown up in the church who grow
mm,
up and are adults and now can't even properly enjoy things because they think in that way.
mm,
Like
mm.
they think any amount of enjoying themselves is bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, because yeah, no, like selfish in the sense where to treat yourself, to just like say like I just want to relax and just not do anything and sit on the couch.
So
That
we
type
have
of
to
things are
define what
okay. Yeah,
selfishness means.
right.
What does it mean to be selfish?
Uh, yeah, because I do make it a broad spectrum. Selfishness, I feel like the true definition of selfishness is being for yourself when it's taking things away from people.
Okay.
That it when you enjoy doing the bad things.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So we can't say that. We can't say that because enjoy doing the bad things, it presupposes that it's bad.
okay.
But
Yeah. Okay.
we're trying so we're on selfishness is the bad thing.
Right.
So we can't say you enjoy doing the bad things because that's just circular.
No. Yeah.
So selfishness is the bad thing. We need to define selfishness. And you said that it takes, when you're selfish, it takes things away from people for your own benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, what if I'm taking things away from people for somebody else's benefit? What if I steal a bunch of money for from somebody who needs it and give it to
Mm.
somebody else who I like, or maybe don't know, doesn't matter. Give it to somebody else who needs it.
Honorable thief. We're talking about an honorable thief.
But no, I'm not even an honorable thief. I'm just a thief because like I took it from somebody who needs it
Mm.
and I'm giving it to somebody else
Who needs it?
who cares. Maybe they need it, maybe they don't.
Mm.
But it's not selfish. I'm not doing it for I'm doing it for someone else.
Are you though? It doesn't sound like you
Oh,
were.
that's a good question. Okay, are we though? Am I?
Yeah. Like, are you doing it for just for the thrill of it, or if it's actually for a person that cares, like that you care about? Yeah. I mean, like God said, right? God said, like it's wrong. It's just wrong. But then we we grow up like, oh, there's some leeway from stealing, right? If it's for a good benefit, or for like steal from the rich, give to the poor, right? But like, what's the intent out of it? Uh,
I'm doing it for their good. So I'm doing bad to someone else for someone else's benefit. But it's not for my benefit. I will get no
mm,
benefit from this.
benefit is the benefit legit? like it's making me ask that question. Uh,
So
maybe
is that
from a bad person to
selfish?
give it to another bad person. Yeah,
Is that selfish?
it, it, it depends. It depends now.
Okay, well let's think about a situation that it does or doesn't and then we can try to boil that down to a deeper principle.
Sure.
Um when would it when would it be the case? You said it depends. Well, when would it be the case that it would be selfish?
It would be selfish when you're stealing from when you say you're stealing from like a homeless person, or a person that's poor, right?
Okay.
That's when it would be selfish.
Okay. So what about a middle class person? Would that
Middle
not but
class,
would that not be bad anymore because they're middle class?
I still think that would be bad.
Yeah. I thought you would.
Yeah.
um okay.
But now when you
So
say like, if I steal from a corporation or a rich person, they're like, now I'm like, I don't know now. That's where the
so
pickup.
so selfishness is you've established that you think that's bad, but you also think that it's sometimes bad to do something that doesn't necessarily have to do anything with selfishness.
It boils down to the intent of it.
Okay. So the intent to what?
Of They'll say like the thing we're talking about right now, stealing. So I understand that one, like go back, you understand that God says like, okay, stealing is bad, and then you asked about like, stealing from a poor person, that's bad. Middle class person, that's bad. When I was mentioning rich person or conglomerate, like, because it's like, again, I'm 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 being brought up on, I'm being brought up on the scripture, but at the same time I'm being brought up from the world. Like, what
Sure.
So like those things collide all the time. It's,
Sure.
so like when I think about like oh stealing from a rich person, like it's then I'm more okay with it. Even though even though I know that God deems stealing is bad.
Sure. Because let's talk about the intent though.
Yeah,
Uh, the rightness or the wrongness of it being determined on the intent. The question I ask is the intent of what? What intent would make it good? What intent would make it bad?
the intent of taking away from the poor and
Okay, let's dig that. Let's
the
stop
bad.
that for just a second.
Yeah,
Taking away from the poor. What have you done when you've taken something from the poor? What have you done?
you've taken something that they have may have might have needed.
Okay, so they needed it.
Yeah,
So when you took it, what did you do to them?
like you're asking like what did I do after taking from the poor?
No, no, no. Well, so when you took from them, just like
Mm,
when you shank somebody,
mm,
or when you lie about their situation,
mm.
what was the practical implications of what you did?
Um, you took away a resource. You took away something that they needed um, away from the person.
What did that do to
Um,
them? Because that's not the end result.
no, I mean, yeah, could mean, I mean, like say like the paycheck we were talking about the paycheck. That paycheck could have, you know, have them kept a house for that for a monthly payment, for
Sure.
another, you know, or needing like some sort of medication that taking care of
Okay.
some.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Let's say it's for it's you take his money, he can't buy his medication,
Mm,
his condition worsens,
yeah,
and he dies.
yeah.
Um, the practical implications of you doing one of those things to people is that it harmed them.
Mm,
That's uh, that seems to be a common denominator between those.
right.
And when you're talking about uh, and the reason I think that you don't care as much about stealing from the conglomerate is because it's not going to really hurt them that
Yeah, yeah.
bad. So on some level, um, there's this intent uh, when you're talking about intent or when you're talking about any sort of action. Um, the common denominator is, does it do good to someone in the sense that it makes them prosper, or it brings about good consequences for their life, or does it do harm to someone? um, and Now that's just my take so far on what you've told me. I'm drawing my opinion of a common of a line of a common denominator
Mm.
between all of the things that you've told me so far. And so I can be wrong. Um, what do you think?
No, you sound it sounds about right. Like
Okay.
as we're digging deeper into this, it's starting to be more pronounced.
Okay.
You know, show more
So
fully about it.
why then does God command things?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Sure, but like
I just have to trust them.
sure, but I'm talking about the Ten Commandments.
Uh-huh.
All of the rules and laws that says, hey, these are wrong, these are good things, these are bad things. What is the common denominator between all of those um, commands?
That's from right and wrong.
Yeah, what is the right of it and what is the wrong
Mm,
of it? That's the
mm,
common denominator between all of those things. And we just used three things as an example to kind of like draw that together, and we sort of settled on good things being um, for people's benefit
mm.
and bad things being for people's harm.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure there's lots of other commands that we could look at and be like, hey, does that follow here? Does that follow here? And
Mm.
it may or may not be the case that you think that. Um, but based on everything that we've talked about, um, I think that that's what you think. Um, and you are welcome to disagree. Please do. Um, um, but you, do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
uh, honestly, no. Again, I'm racked up right now. I'm like, um, but yeah, no, no immediate thoughts. I would have to like meditate on that too.
Okay, so
Go back
um,
and just you know picture, ponder about it, and just,
and morality grows over time. So you
yeah,
can think one thing at one point, and it you may not think that thing in the future. That's perfectly fine.
yeah,
Um, I my moral structure has definitely evolved over time. So for now, if you basically believe that all morality has to do with harm or not or helping
mm,
people, helping versus
mm,
harming, and all that structured among God's commands,
mm.
um, that's fine. Um, so yeah, I'm thinking about calling this episode "Divine Command Theory" with a question mark.
Sounds good.
Um, do you have anything to say before we get out of here?
No, no, literally, I have nothing. Like, no, I'm good, man.
Anything you
Thank
want to
you.
promote before we go?
No, I mean just have the channel. Just Nerd in the Bay. Yeah, just we just go through the spectrum of nerdy pop culture, and yeah, martial arts to video games to comics to anime, all sorts of things. And yeah, we're just pumping videos as much as we can, and yeah, just doing the content creative thing. So thank
Cool.
you for yeah, just
Absolutely.
my brain is like mush at the moment, but I'm like it's good to have these like this discussion to really hone down like where
Yeah.
the morality, my morality, at least more my morality is at, and if it's like whether I need to be corrected or not. But it's good to
And
find.
I encourage you to have these types of conversations about all sorts of things because
Yeah,
you can have a belief about something and just a couple of quick questions of why or what does that mean or can I define that does wonders.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's
thank you
good.
for coming on the episode. This is episode 4, and actually it's the longest episode we've done so far. Um, so that
um,
should be cool. But thank you very much, and thanks to everybody who watched. If you have anything that you'd like to say about the video, please leave it in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you have a desire to come on the channel and dig into your own moral beliefs, you can also put that in the comments, or you can shoot me a message at on Twitter at the Anime Trainer. Um, it's kind of a long line though. So, but until next time, guys, good luck and train hard.